The storm outside the Interstate Hotel felt like it had followed him across 3 states, but nothing weighed heavier on Marcus Hale's shoulders than the loneliness he carried inside. He stood in the dim hallway, exhausted from a day of meetings that felt more like battles, his fingers trembling as he slid the keycard into the lock. All he wanted, no, all he needed, was silence, a hot shower, and the chance to video call his little girl before she fell asleep. But the moment the door creaked open, before the light even flickered on, he froze. A soft, broken woman's voice drifted across the room from the darkness, trembling, almost whispering. It wasn't aggression. It wasn't surprise. It was sadness. Deep, raw sadness. And in that single, haunting moment, Marcus realized his night was about to take a turn he could never have expected. If you believe the world still has kindness left in it, if you believe broken people can heal and that second chances matter, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Marcus stepped inside carefully, his heart thudding, expecting danger but hearing something entirely different. The voice repeated softly, as if speaking to someone only she could see. The room smelled faintly of lavender and menthol, the scent old hotels used to disguise cigarette smoke. It took a moment for his eyes to adjust, for his breath to steady, and when he finally found the source of the voice, he felt the world tilt. A young woman sat curled up in the corner near the window, knees pressed to her chest, hotel blanket wrapped around her like a fragile shield. Her hair was messy, her clothes rumpled, her face streaked with tears, but it was the emptiness in her eyes that hit him the hardest. She looked like someone who had forgotten what hope felt like. Marcus wasn't the type to get involved in strangers' business. Life had taught him that helping wasn't always rewarded. As a black single father, he had fought for everything: respect, opportunities, custody of his daughter. He had been judged, dismissed, overlooked. But he also knew what pain looked like. He had held his ex-wife through panic attacks before she walked away from him and their daughter. He had seen the exhaustion in his own mother's eyes before she died from a condition they couldn't afford to treat in time. Pain was a language he understood, even when it came from someone he had never met. The woman didn't scream or move, she just whispered an apology to someone who wasn't there. Marcus gently cleared his throat, and she flinched the way a wounded animal would, like even sound could break her further. She told him, not in firm sentences, but in pieces, that she had nowhere to go. That her boyfriend had left her during the road trip, that she had checked into the room earlier with what little money she had, and that an error at the front desk must have assigned it to Marcus too. She said she would leave, but her legs shook so badly she couldn't stand, and for a moment Marcus saw something terrifying behind her forced apologies, hopelessness deep enough to swallow a person whole. He sat on the edge of the bed, far enough to give her space, close enough to show he wasn't a threat. He told her about his daughter, Lena, and how she was waiting for his call. He told her how he had once slept in his car after losing everything in a bad business deal. He spoke gently, letting his voice be a bridge instead of a wall. Slowly, the woman, Elena Rivers, she finally whispered, began to breathe more steadily. She explained that she had left home to escape a relationship that broke her spirit more than it broke her body. She had hoped to restart her life somewhere new, but freedom, she learned, was expensive. Marcus didn't judge her. Instead, he called the front desk and quietly requested a second room, paying out of pocket. The manager apologized and said the hotel was fully booked because of the storm. Marcus paused, looked back at Elena trembling on the floor, and made a decision he knew could be misunderstood but also knew was right. He told the manager they would share the room, 2 beds, door latch secured on his side, and that he would take responsibility for the mishap. He wasn't thinking like a businessman then. He was thinking like a father, protecting someone's daughter who had no one looking out for her. The storm grew louder outside, rattling the windows as if trying to remind them both how fragile their safety was. Elena eventually drifted to sleep on the second bed after apologizing for the 10th time. Marcus turned toward the wall and video called Lena, who showed him the drawing she had made at school, a picture of her with her dad standing under a rainbow. She told him she missed him and that she was proud of him for working so hard. That simple, earnest sentence hit Marcus like a warm wave, reminding him why he kept going. He didn't tell her about the stranger in the room, he just told her he loved her and promised he'd be home soon. As the night deepened, Marcus lay awake longer than he expected, thinking about how the world created people like Elena, people who carried invisible wounds because no one had cared enough to see them. He wondered how many times she had been dismissed or ignored before she ended up in a stranger's room, whispering apologies to ghosts from her past. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the curtains, soft and golden. Elena looked different, not healed, but clearer, as if rest had smoothed even a small layer of the fear that clung to her. She thanked him in a voice that cracked with sincerity and told him she felt embarrassed for breaking down. Marcus shook his head and told her that everyone has breaking points and that asking for help, even silently, wasn't shameful. He bought her breakfast downstairs, and for the first time she smiled, a small, timid smile, but real. She told him she dreamed of becoming a veterinary assistant and working with animals because they always made sense to her. Marcus listened, offering encouragement, reminding her she didn't have to rebuild her life overnight. People healed in inches, not miles. Before leaving, he gave her his business card, not as a man offering charity, but as someone who understood survival, strength, and starting over. He told her she could call if she ever needed help finding work or getting back on her feet. She held the card so delicately it was like he had handed her something priceless. Their paths diverged at the hotel entrance, but something lingered between them, not romance, not obligation, but human connection. A reminder that the world becomes softer when people choose compassion over distance. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who might need hope today, and subscribe so we can bring more real, emotional stories to you. And just before the ending, please leave a comment telling us what moment in this story moved you the most. Marcus drove away that morning feeling unexpectedly lighter, as though helping someone else had eased a part of his own burdens. That night, as he tucked a sleepy Lena into bed after finally returning home, he felt grateful, not just for his daughter's small arms wrapped around his neck, but for the reminder that kindness had power. That compassion could rewrite someone's darkest night. That every stranger carried a story waiting for someone patient enough to hear. Across the city in a small diner, Elena sipped warm coffee and stared at the business card Marcus had given her. For the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. She didn't feel invisible. She felt like maybe, just maybe, life hadn't closed all its doors on her. She folded the card gently and placed it into her bag like a promise she wasn't ready to let go of. And somewhere between the storm they survived and the sunrise that followed, two people who started as strangers ended up saving each other in ways neither of them fully understood, but would remember for the rest of their lives.